Howdy folks, my name is Saoirse and welcome back to Flight Sim 2020. It is a muggy and overcast afternoon here in Chicago, just like it was in New York. The Advance Mercury here is refueled. We've got all of our passengers disembarked and re-embarked. They've had a chance to stretch their legs, as have we. It is just before 2:30 in the afternoon, so let's go ahead and get everyone on board. Let's get this thing started and we'll start the route down to Los Angeles. So I'll see you guys on board. And once again, welcome aboard the flight deck of this wonderful DC-6. This is going to be leg 2 of Flight 5, the Advance Mercury, here from Chicago's Midway down to Los Angeles. It's a little overcast, as I said. The weather's not great out there, but once we get up in the air and start heading to the south, it should start to clear up and be a pretty pleasant flight overall. Now, this leg of the flight is going to take about 6 hours, if I recall. There are about 6 or so hours. Obviously, we're not going to be taking that long for this flight, but this was definitely a true test of what the DC-6 was capable of at the time. So let's get this thing started, get ourselves toward the runway, and I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. We've got 4 good engines turning. It looks like it should be a pretty routine takeoff for us. I don't see any issues popping up. While we get over to the runway, I did want to talk a little bit more about the DC-6 that we're flying today. I honestly think that the DC-6's role in history is a little bit overlooked. We talk about the DC-3 and the pioneering of commercial aviation and passenger travel. We talk about the L-1049 Constellation because it was rightfully so a wonderful, wonderful airplane. We talk about the DC-7 because of the workhorse that it was in the mid to late 50s, and obviously the 707. But the DC-6 was a cornerstone for any carrier that wasn't TWA in the late 40s, early 50s. Because of the inability for these airlines to get the Constellation, they had to essentially scramble and make do, and that's where the DC-6 comes in. It was really more of a stopgap between the unpressurized DC-4 and the workhorse that is the DC-7. Now the DC-6 uses the Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp radial engines, uses 4 of them. This is an extremely powerful engine. F-4U Corsair used it, the P-47 Thunderbolt used it, and it really gave this airplane the edge that it needed to keep up with TWA. It was extremely fast. It could get these airplanes to haul a whole bunch of mail, a whole bunch of cargo. It really made air travel profitable for these companies in the late 40s, early 50s. Honestly, without this, if you're stuck with Convair and Boeing, you don't really get the same kind of impact. Douglas really led the way when it comes to passenger air travel back in these days. So without the DC-6, you don't have that. You don't have the DC-7 keeping these airlines going. You don't have the introduction of the 707 and whatnot. So it really is kind of an underappreciated airplane, at least in my own research. That's why I really enjoy flying it. So this flight is going to be a good one, I think.
On 30 inches, stabilize. Stabilized. Cal flaps. Cal flaps. Cal flaps set. Full power, please. Going full power. Gear up.
So climb out looks like it's going all right. Let's get the airplane cleaned up here. We should be busting through the clouds any minute now. So while we do, I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on the transcontinental flight that we're on now. So this flight was fairly routine for the early 50s at the time. It was a very regular thing, even if it was a little bit on the expensive side by today's standards. But even this flight is basically should be a spaceship compared to how it was when it first started. Now, the first transcontinental flight that was done was from New York to Los Angeles in 1911. So before World War I, if you can even imagine what that looked like. The flight departed on September 17th and reached LA on November 5th after 80 stops. It was an ordeal, really. And the guy that did it, Perry Rogers, I believe his name was, he was trying to win a prize that had been put forth by William Randolph Hearst, which was a $50,000 prize for the first pilot who could fly either direction, coast to coast, in 30 days, or less. And Rogers actually did do it, but he missed it by 19 days, so not quite. Now, the first transcontinental flight that was done for passengers, with passengers on board, was in 1932. So there was definitely a wide gap between them. Before that, you had the mail flights, the modern-day Pony Express, basically. And then after that, you start getting into the bigger airplanes. The Constellation would be released in the late 40s, like 46 if I recall. So that is the direction. So once passengers started getting into the mix, the technology just took right off with these things.
After takeoff checks are complete.
Well, the weather has certainly cleared up rather nicely. We are cruising along here at 17,000 feet, so it should be a pretty smooth ride all the way into LA. So while I've got you guys here, I wanted to talk a little bit more about American Airlines and the flagship that we're flying today. Now, American Airlines started its life in 1930 as American Airways. It was a merger, a conglomerate, so to speak, of about 82, 83 different smaller airlines that all came together under one banner, for essentially for one mutual cause. And in 1933 rather, American was operating transcontinental mail service, like most airlines at the time were. They offered the service to 72 some odd cities, which was a big deal for the U.S. Postal Service, but that's a story for another time. And in 1936, American was the very first company to fly the DC-3. And the DC-3 and American Airlines together really started what we imagined commercial aviation to be. Without the American Airlines DC-3s, without these flagships, you probably don't get the Constellation until much later. You probably don't get commercial air travel being what it is until much later, because getting their feet in the door before World War II really helped them survive the war years, I think, as far as the company is concerned. Now, in 1934, American Airlines hired Mr. C.R. Smith as their chairman to run the company, and C.R. Smith is probably one of the most influential figures in commercial aviation, in just terms of what he did for aviation as a whole and what he did for American Airlines. The Admirals Club, that's a C.R. Smith idea. The flagships, that's a C.R. Smith idea. Pilots retiring at 60 years old, later 65, that's C.R. Smith's idea. C.R. Smith was a revolutionary figurehead for this company, and he turned it into what it was and what it is, really, which is, I mean, he's in Aviation Hall of Fames left and right. So without C.R. Smith, we don't have commercial aviation as we know it today. We just don't, I don't think. For better or for worse, you can look at it however ways you want to, but without him, it just doesn't happen. And so American Airlines led the way for a long time, and then TWA came along with a better airliner and better fares, and so that you start getting the competition between these two companies, or these companies rather, leading all the way up until the introduction of the 707, which American Airlines was the first company to fly that one as well. So American really pioneered a whole bunch of stuff in commercial aviation and passenger travel. So we have them to thank for quite a few things, whether you agree with that or not, whether it's a good thing or not. So we're looking pretty good so far. I think it's going to be a pretty smooth flight as we go. So I will see you guys as we close in California. So sit back, relax, enjoy your dinner, because dinner's on this flight, and I'll see you guys when we get there. And there's the Rocky Mountains down there. So we are almost to our destination. It has been a smooth flight all the way through. Nice and smooth air, no real wind. Clouds start to dissipate some. I imagine it'll be clear by the time we get down to LA. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the flight as much as I have. I'm really working hard to try to figure out the best format for these things, so I really do appreciate your patience. I really want to tell the history of these airplanes and these airlines, and I'm trying to find the best way to do that, while also sharing my passion for flying and for flight sim. I'm hoping one of these days to get out to some of the museums and whatnot, and show you guys some of the real deals more than anything. But for the meantime, this is what we got. So I do want to propose to all of you that if you do have something that you want me to touch on, or if there's anything that I talk about in these videos that you want more information on, feel free to leave me a comment and ask me a question. I'll be more than happy to get back with you on it and talk about it some more. I'm trying to keep these things a little bit a little more easier to digest and not quite so long, because I'm not quite as established as some of the other flight sim gurus out there. So I appreciate you sticking with me. So let's get this thing set up for descent. We should be getting down into LA here pretty soon, and I'll see you guys once we get down there. Well, now I can see why they call it Sunset Boulevard. Look at that sunset. Holy shit, it's so pretty. Wow. So here we are over San Bernardino and the eastern part of the LA basin. We'll be getting to LAX here pretty soon. Obviously, the terrain outside is a little bit brighter than what we would see in 1951. But the principle of the thing is what's important, I think. So let's enjoy this wonderful sunset, this gorgeous terrain. We'll be getting this thing set up for landing here in just a few minutes, and I think I'll just sit back and let you guys enjoy the views. So I'll see you guys when we're on the ground.
visible. Wavy lights. Speed good. Steady lights.
Look at that! A centerline landing for Saoirse. I did not think I could do it. That was actually not a bad landing altogether, I don't think. Bounced just a little bit there at the end, so it wasn't the greatest. But you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. So let's get this thing off the runway into the to the gate. I'll see you guys in just a minute. Well, folks, welcome to Los Angeles. Thank you so much for joining me on today's flight. This was absolutely a blast. I had so much fun doing this, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed the video just as much. I need to do more of this, I really do, because it was such a fantastic time. And the DC-6 is just a wonderful airplane to fly. It really was. Now, like I said before, I am going to be looking for other airplanes to fly. It's not just going to be DC-6 videos for me from here on out, despite the fact that I really do like it. But we'll be doing that here in the next few videos, I think, and kind of talking more about United and Trans World and Pan Am, and kind of going in those directions and kind of seeing what kind of things we can dig up. I hope that you guys will come along with me on those journeys. But for now, let's get this DC-6 secured, get these passengers off board. It was an absolutely wonderful flight, and I had a great time. So thank you so much for joining me on today's Flight 5 from New York. If you do enjoy what I do, please make sure that you like and subscribe. I had a blast with this, and I really hope that you guys did too. I don't yet know what the next one's going to be, but I think it's going to be a pretty good one then as well. So I guess that'll do it for us from Los Angeles. My name is Saoirse the Vixen. You guys take care, and I'll see you in the next one.